Howdy out there, everyone. Today we're going to talk about this wonderful film written by Bruce Joel Rubin and directed by Adrian Lyne. It was released in 1990 and its name is Jacob's Ladder. And of course, this is the new Imprint Blu-ray release that I am so pleased to report is just really good looking. It's a wonderful looking and sounding Blu-ray disc. Studio Canal, the logo flashed up at the beginning, and I was met with an overwhelming sense of relief because normally Studio Canal's releases are generally always good, if not great. So for any of you who are concerned about the quality of this transfer, please don't fret. This is a solid release by Imprint. The movie, of course, came out in 1990 and is quite a psychedelic psychological horror film that more psychological drama slash horror, to be honest. It is a wonderful examination, basically, of what I, at least in my view, see as the Bardo state. It's the Tim Robbins character, essentially going through limbo, trying to figure out how to get to the other side and ascend up to heaven. And that's kind of the double meaning of the title is the title, the character played by Tim Robbins is named Jacob, and Jacob's Ladder is a device used in the book of Genesis, I think, whereby, one of the disciples climbs up a ladder into heaven, and the movie is just a trippy ride. It's in some ways a very interesting sort of spiritual cousin to a film like Altered States. I would put a little bit of The Sixth Sense in there. It certainly cribs from another classic, Carnival of Souls. I just love this film. In fact, I would even go so far as to say it's probably one of my top 10 horror films of all time. I think it's just a terrific film. Everything that you see on camera was filmed in camera. There was no post-production for the effect work. And when I say what a wonderful job they did with those constraints, I mean it. The imagery in this film is so creepy, and they did some really interesting things with camera speeds and so forth. Apparently, to get the weird shaking head effect, the cinematographer, I believe, filmed someone shaking their head at 4 frames per second and then sped it up to about 24 frames per second, and the effect is chilling. What's interesting is the story Silent Hill actually cribs heavily from some of the imagery in this, and of course it went on to first be a video game, but then of course a mediocre horror film from the aughts. It's a movie that I see pluses and minuses in, but generally speaking, I don't think it's a very good film. This film, on the other hand, is highly rewatchable. I pick something up every time I watch it, and I feel as though the actors are all terrific in it. It's got a wonderful cast of just solid character actors, including Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. He shows up in it at some point. He's an attorney. It's got Ving Rhames in it. What's his name? The gentleman who was in the film Heavy with Liv Tyler, Scott Taylor Pruitt, I think his name is. He's in it. Of course, Tim Robbins. Danny Aiello, who plays Tim Robbins' chiropractor, does a terrific job. In fact, I would argue that both Tim Robbins and Danny Aiello both deserve some award recognition for their respective parts. I thought they were both excellent in their roles, and the in-camera practical effects, the very authentic looking on-location shooting that they did in and around New York City. I just can't give this movie any higher marks. It's an A+ film. So, and again, I'm happy to report that this Imprint disc looks the part. Here we are, the cover. This is the slipcase. As you can see, if you want to pause that, there's some really good supplemental features, including a fascinating interview with the writer, who apparently had gone over into Asia and had been in a monastery for about a year and met the Dalai Lama, and apparently was even offered to become the Dalai Lama's student. And he says he turned him down, which I thought was just crazy. I mean, when the Dalai Lama says, "I'd like to be your teacher," the answer you provide is yes. But it's fascinating interview. The guy is a really interesting dude and has, of course, most famously, I believe he wrote the screenplay for Ghost, which, of course, I believe got the Oscar that year. So, I personally think Jacob's Ladder, which was released in the same year, is a much better film. But again, talented writer for sure. The other thing I want to point out is that there's a video essay on the spirituality of Jacob's Ladder on here that's quite good. There's another video essay on sort of the trauma angle of the film, which I think is also interesting. But I definitely feel like the interview with the writer and the video essay on the spirituality of the film are just excellent. Really adds to the flavor of the film, and there are some excellent deleted scenes on here that have been on previous releases, and they are all really interesting. I think they made the right decision by leaving them out, but I highly recommend watching them because they add to the overall effect of the film. So on that note, I would just say if you've not seen Jacob's Ladder, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's an incredibly effective psychological, psychedelic horror drama from 1990, and this Imprint release is just top shelf. Kudos to them. I think this is probably one of their best releases. I would put this alongside A Straight Story, David Lynch's G-rated Disney movie, and perhaps I really like the work they did on Barfly as well. So on that note, please take care out there, everyone. Stay safe, be kind, and keep watching good cinema.